Have you ever had one of those experiences that was so profound, so personal, that when you tried to tell someone about it, the words just fell apart? It happens all the time when we talk about our inner lives, especially those really deep moments we might call spiritual. But what if there was a way to actually map that inner world? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore with a brilliant philosopher as our guide. And that's really the core problem, isn't it? We live in this world that's all about clear, logical explanations. But what happens when our deepest, most meaningful experiences just refuse to be put in a box? When your own inner world brushes up against a mystery that feels, infinite, how do you even begin to talk about that? The philosopher Edith Stein, she just nailed this problem. She pointed out that when we really turn our attention inward, especially towards those encounters with what she called the absolute, that ultimate reality, our normal ways of thinking, our usual categories, they just don't cut it. It's not that they're wrong, they're just not big enough for the job. So, what are we supposed to do? Just give up? Not a chance. Instead, Stein offers us a kind of map for this inner journey. She lays out a path for us, a way to move from the noisy, chaotic surface of our lives down into the deepest parts of the soul. And she gives us a really serious method for doing it. That method is called phenomenology. I know, it sounds super academic, but the core idea is actually pretty simple and really powerful. The motto is, to the things themselves. All it really means is that we have to pay super close attention to an experience exactly as it's happening, without immediately trying to label it or explain it away with some theory we already have. It's about being radically honest with what we're actually experiencing. Now, what's so cool is how Stein actually draws this map. Think of it like a journey downward through 4 different layers of our being. We all start at the surface, right? Just reacting to the world with our senses. But if we go deeper, we get to our imagination and our thoughts, where we're actively creating and shaping our experience. Deeper still is our will. This is where our core choices, our basic stance towards life is formed. And then finally, at the very bottom, there's the soul's center, a place of pure stillness where, according to Stein, a real encounter can actually happen. And that journey inward, it leads us right here to a destination Stein calls the threshold of silence. And look, this is not just about finding a quiet room to meditate in. We're talking about reaching a profound state of being. It's the meeting point, the place where our small, finite self comes face to face with a reality that feels totally boundless and infinite. So this is the crucial part. The threshold isn't a physical place. It's a unique state of awareness. It's where the normal rules of logic start to get a little fuzzy, and our experience gets defined by paradox. Stein talks about it as this dynamic meeting point, a place of contact between our limited human self and what you might call God or the divine or just ultimate reality. All right, here's the first big paradox you find there. Mystics throughout history have talked about a darkness, but Stein is really clear. This isn't the absence of light. It's the exact opposite. It's an excess of light. Imagine staring right into the sun. The light is so powerful, it literally blinds you. Well, that's this darkness. It's a darkness born from a presence that is just too bright for our minds to possibly comprehend. And this experience of an overwhelming presence, it brings us to the second paradox. At this threshold, silence isn't an empty void anymore. It becomes a really profound form of communication. It's a space where presence speaks directly to presence in a way that words never, ever could. It's a deep, shared understanding, and there's not a single word spoken. But this journey isn't all bliss and silent communication. It can be incredibly difficult. Stein, who learned a lot from mystics like John of the Cross, also talks about the really challenging experience known as the dark night. But she sees it not as some random tragedy, but as a painful process with a real purpose. So the dark night is that stage where basically everything you've ever relied on gets stripped away. Your comforts, your ideas, even your feeling of making spiritual progress. It all goes. Yeah, it's painful for sure. But Stein sees it as a kind of necessary purification. It's about letting go of all the junk that stands in the way of connecting with that deeper reality. Now, this is so important. The suffering itself doesn't automatically make you a better person. The key is how you respond to it. Stein's big insight here is that we have a choice. We can resist it, fight against it, collapse under it, and that just leads to bitterness. Or we can practice what she calls acceptance. This doesn't mean you like the pain, it just means you stop fighting what's happening. And it's that choice, that act of letting go, that opens the door to real transformation. So After all this intense inner work, the journey down, crossing that threshold, surviving the dark night, what's on the other side? How does a person actually change? Well, this whole journey has a destination, and it's a completely transformed way of living your life in the real world. The goal is often called mystical union, but that term gets misunderstood all the time. Stein is really firm on this. It's not about losing yourself or dissolving into nothing. It's actually the opposite. The paradox is you become more truly yourself, more authentically you, by grounding your identity in something so much bigger than your own little ego. And this inner transformation has real, practical effects you can see. A person living this way starts to act from that still, silent center we talked about. They feel this incredible freedom from attachment where they can love people and things deeply without that desperate, grasping need to possess them. They're just fully present, right here, right now. And maybe most amazing of all, they can stay open and receptive even while they're busy and active out in the world. This quote from John of the Cross just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? It suggests that this ultimate reality, the deepest meaning of everything, is constantly being communicated, but it's spoken in a language, one single word, that we can only begin to hear when we learn how to cultivate that profound silence inside ourselves. So the final question really is for all of us. I mean, we live in a world that is just nonstop noise, outside and inside our own heads. We've pretty much forgotten what silence even feels like. But if Edith Stein and all these wise traditions are right, that silence isn't empty, it's full. So the question is, what might we hear if we actually learn to listen to it?